let my daughter drift away in silence for 8 years. Not because I didn't love her. Not because I was too busy, though God knows I used that excuse enough times. I let it happen because learning sign language was hard, and I was used to things coming easy. 5 languages. That's what I speak fluently. I can negotiate a hostile takeover in Mandarin, charm investors in French, close deals in Japanese. But I couldn't tell my own daughter a bedtime story in the language she needed. My name is Julia Wilson. I'm 40 years old, CEO of one of the biggest real estate companies on the West Coast, and until a random Saturday morning in a Mission District café, I was failing at the only job that actually mattered. Let me back up. 8 years ago, I got the call every spouse dreads. My husband died in a car accident on his way home from work. Sudden. Final. Our daughter Emma was only 2 years old. Too young to understand why Daddy wasn't coming home, but old enough to feel the hole it left in our lives. Emma was born with a rare neurological condition that stole her voice before she could properly use it. The doctors tried everything, treatments, therapies, specialists from here to Boston. Nothing worked. By the time she was 4, we knew the truth. Emma would never speak. Not in the traditional sense, anyway. So I did what any ambitious, Type A personality would do. I threw myself into learning American Sign Language with the same intensity one brought to hostile takeovers and million-dollar negotiations. And I sucked at it. Not at first. The basics came easy enough. Hello. Thank you. I love you. But real ASL. The fluid grace, the facial expressions that change entire meanings, the spatial grammar that native signers use. It was like trying to learn music when you're tone deaf. Our conversations became these painful exercises in frustration. Me signing slowly, deliberately, like I was defusing a bomb. Emma trying to respond, then watching my face go blank when I couldn't follow. Both of us ending up using gestures and guesswork more than actual language. So we drifted. Not dramatically. Not with fights or slammed doors. Just, apart. Me in my corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking San Francisco. Emma in her room with her sketch pad, drawing worlds she couldn't describe to me. The morning everything changed started like any other disaster in my life, with me forgetting a promise. My assistant Kate buzzed my office intercom. Your 9 o'clock is here. Also, don't forget you promised Emma breakfast this morning. That new cafe on Valencia Street. My stomach dropped. The Japanese investor who represented 40% of our expansion capital was having second thoughts about the deal. My CFO was in crisis mode. The board was already questioning my leadership after tech blogs started running articles about my divided attention. And I'd forgotten about breakfast with my daughter. Again. Cancel the 9 o'clock, I said. Cancel everything until noon. I'm taking Emma to breakfast. Kate's pause said everything. The board won't like that. Steven Sanders already making noise. Let him. 30 minutes later, I stood outside Emma's bedroom in our Pacific Heights mansion, this massive house that felt empty no matter how much furniture we filled it with. When I opened the door, Emma looked up from her sketch pad, genuine surprise crossing her face. I was wearing jeans. Not the usual power suit and severe bun. Just, mom clothes. Ready for breakfast. I signed, movements careful and deliberate. Her face transformed. That's the only word for it. Like someone had turned on a light inside her. She grabbed her purple backpack, the one she'd decorated with painted butterflies, and practically bounced to the door. The cafe was everything our house wasn't. Warm. Crowded. Alive. The smell of fresh coffee and maple syrup, families laughing together, autumn leaves pressed against the windows creating this natural stained glass effect. We got a table by the window. Emma immediately pulled out her sketch pad and started drawing the leaves dancing in the breeze. While I stood at the counter ordering, I kept glancing back at her. She looked so small at that table. So alone. Other kids her age were chatting with their parents, sharing jokes. Emma just sat in her bubble of silence. That familiar ache hit me. The one that whispered I was failing her in every way that counted. The bell above the door chimed. A man walked in with a young boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, who had sandy brown hair sticking up at odd angles and wore a dinosaur sweater. The kid carried a well-loved stuffed triceratops like it was his best friend. Before anyone could react, the boy bounced over to Emma's table. He'd seen her drawing. I tensed immediately, ready to intervene, to protect her from the inevitable awkwardness when the boy realized Emma couldn't talk back. Then something extraordinary happened. The man, the boy's father, approached calmly. Instead of speaking, his hands began to move. Fluid, graceful, natural. He was signing to Emma, asking if his son Noah could see her beautiful artwork. And Emma. God, Emma transformed. Her entire body lit up from the inside. Her hands flew in response, not the hesitant, uncertain movements she used with me. These were confident, expressive, alive. She told him about the leaves, how each one was different like snowflakes. The man listened intently, nodding, responding with equal enthusiasm. His facial expressions added layers of meaning I'd never managed to master. I stood there holding 2 coffees, watching my daughter have the kind of conversation I'd been trying to give her for 8 years. "I'm Matthew Stewart," the man said when I finally made it back to the table. He had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a slight southern drawl. "This is Noah. Hope you don't mind him joining your daughter." He saw her drawing and, well, he's never been good at staying put when art's involved. "How do you?" I gestured vaguely at the signing. "My mother taught at the California School for the Deaf for 30 years, Matthew explained. His hands moved unconsciously as he spoke. "I grew up signing before I could talk properly. It's my first language, actually. Mom always said hearing people learn to listen with their ears, but deaf culture teaches you to listen with your whole being." Noah had already pulled out crayons and was adding to Emma's drawing with her enthusiastic permission. They were creating a story together, Emma signing the narrative while Noah added visual elements. "She's incredibly expressive," Matthew continued, watching the children. "Her vocabulary's advanced for her age. And look at her facial grammar, the way she raises her eyebrows for questions, furrows them for emphasis. She's not just signing. She's truly speaking ASL." The compliment stung because I knew I didn't deserve any credit for it. "I'm still learning," I admitted. "It's harder than I expected. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing her." Matthew turned to me then, his brown eyes warm with understanding. "Every parent feels that way. Trust me. Noah's mom passed when he was 3. There are days I have no idea what I'm doing. But showing up, trying, that matters more than being perfect." He mentioned a family class on Saturday mornings casually, like it was no big deal. Parents and children learning together. Emma might enjoy having other kids to practice with. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from the office. 2 from board members. A text from Kate. "Tech blogs picked up photos of you at café. Sanders calling emergency meeting. Nakamura-san wants answers now." The real world crashed in, threatening everything I'd built. But looking at Emma's joy, real, unguarded joy I hadn't seen in months, something shifted inside me. "I should go," I said, already standing. Already retreating into the safety of work. "Thank you for talking with her." Matthew pulled out a simple business card. "The class information's on there. No pressure, but Emma would be welcome anytime. You both would be." The week that followed was brutal. Headlines screamed "Distracted CEO" and "Wilson Enterprises losing focus." Stephen Sanders leaked concerns to investors about leadership stability. I fought to save my company while my mind kept drifting back to that moment in the cafe. To Emma's joy. To Matthew's patient hands. Thursday afternoon, Kate set coffee on my desk along with a tablet showing the latest hit piece. "They're calling you the absent CEO. Stephen has convinced 3 board members to demand a performance review." I looked down, surprised to find Matthew's card in my hand. I'd been carrying it all week, edges soft from repeated handling. "He teaches sign language," I said quietly. "He talked to Emma like it was the most natural thing in the world. She was so happy, Kate. So take her to the class," Kate said simply. "The Nakamura deal will still be there Monday. Your daughter's childhood won't." Her voice was firm. "I've watched you build walls for 5 years. Maybe it's time to build bridges instead." That evening, I came home to find Emma doing homework with the nanny. She looked up briefly when I walked in, then back down. Hope extinguished. "Emma," I signed, sitting beside her. Would you like to go to a sign language class on Saturday? With other children. The transformation was immediate. Her hands flew in excited response. Could Noah be there? Could they really go? Could they go every week? Saturday morning arrived gray and misty. The community center in the Mission District was covered in murals depicting hands in various signs. I felt completely out of place in my designer jeans among the diverse families gathering. Then I saw Matthew at the front, setting up visual aids. Noah was helping, tangling himself in a banner that read, "Every voice matters, even silent ones." When Matthew looked up and saw us, his smile was like sunshine breaking through fog. The class was a revelation. 15 families, all at different stages of their sign language journey, learning together. Matthew was a natural teacher, explaining not just vocabulary but the culture behind it. ASL isn't English on the hands, he demonstrated. It's a spatial language. Watch how I establish people in space, then refer back to them. See how my face isn't just expressing emotion, it's providing grammar. During break time, something magical happened. Emma, who'd spent 8 years as the quiet observer, the child at the edges of groups, suddenly stood up. She tapped the table for attention like she'd seen Matthew do. Sharp and confident. The other children turned to look. Instead of shrinking back, Emma stepped forward. She organized a signing game. Silent story circle. Each child would add one signed sentence to build a collaborative story. A younger boy, maybe 5, struggled with classifiers. Instead of giving up, Emma knelt beside him. Patient. Clear. She showed him how her flat hand could become a car. How 2 fingers walking showed a person moving. When he got it right, his face lit up with pride, and Emma's smile was radiant. I watched my daughter transform from silent observer to confident leader. Teaching younger children with patience. Encouraging hesitant parents to join in. She's a natural teacher, Matthew said, appearing beside me with coffee. Look how she adjusts her signing speed for different skill levels. She's not just teaching signs. She's teaching confidence. I've been holding her back, I said quietly. The admission hurt. I've been so afraid of her being hurt that I've kept her in a bubble. Our bubble. Just the 2 of us in that big house. Fear makes us do that, Matthew replied. After Noah's mom died, I barely left the house for 6 months. I thought I was keeping him safe, but I was keeping him from living. Kids need more than protection. They need community. Challenge. The chance to discover who they are beyond our fears. After class, the 4 of us went to lunch at a small taqueria. The children sat together, Emma teaching Noah new signs while they shared chips and salsa. This is nice, Matthew said simply. And I knew he meant more than just lunch. It is, I agreed, allowing myself to relax for the first time in years. As the children drew on their placemats, Matthew watched them with an expression I couldn't quite read. After Catherine died, he said quietly, I promised myself Noah would be enough. That I wouldn't need anyone else. Wouldn't risk. He trailed off, hands forming the sign for fear. But watching him with Emma, seeing how happy he is to have a friend who just accepts him completely, I realize I've been keeping him in a bubble too. He finally looked at me. I'm terrified of letting people in again. But maybe being terrified is better than being alone. My phone exploded with messages that weekend. A photographer had captured us at lunch. Tech blogs ran wild with speculation. CEO's new priority, romance over revenue. Stephen Sanders called an emergency board meeting for Monday. Sunday evening, I sat in my home office preparing for battle. Kate arrived with files and strategies, but also advice. You could fight this the old way, she said. Or you could try something different. Show them that opening up doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. Monday's board meeting was tense. The boardroom felt like an arena. Stephen led the charge about lack of focus and questionable priorities. His PowerPoint showed paparazzi photos, the café, the taqueria, the class. The room full of men in identical charcoal suits stared at me with disapproval. This is about optics, Stephen said. Our investors need stability, not a CEO having a midlife crisis. Is that what you think this is? I asked calmly. What else would you call it? You're abandoning $1 million dinners for finger painting exhibitions. The room murmured agreement. These men who'd never once asked about Emma in 8 years. I listened to each complaint, each thinly veiled threat. Then I stood. But instead of my usual PowerPoint, I began to sign as I spoke. Gentlemen, let me show you something. I pulled up market research on the main screen. 40 million Americans use ASL. That's 40 million potential customers we've been ignoring because we couldn't speak their language. Another 20 million are family members, friends, colleagues who interact with the deaf community daily. I moved around the room, using the spatial referencing Matthew taught me. Literally placing different market segments in different areas, making the invisible visible. While you've been worried about optics, I've been seeing opportunities you've been blind to. I showed them my plans. Properties with visual fire alarms as standard. Video phone systems in every unit. Common areas designed with sight lines that allowed for sign language conversations. Partnership proposals from deaf-owned businesses. Premium rates such properties could command. I'm not distracted. I'm seeing our business through new eyes. Finding blue oceans in red markets. I looked directly at Stephen. You say I'm unfocused because I'm learning to communicate with my daughter. I say that learning has taught me to see our entire industry differently. If you can't see the value in that, perhaps you're the one who's lost focus. I pulled up one final slide. A photo Kate had taken at the ASL class. Julia and Emma signing together, both laughing, surrounded by families. This isn't a distraction from my work. This is the reason for it. And if you can't understand that a CEO who understands multiple ways of communicating is an asset, not a liability, then perhaps you're not the board this company needs. The silence was deafening. Then Nakamura-san's face appeared on the conference screen from Tokyo. I'd forgotten he was dialed in. Wilson-san, he said, his voice carrying the weight of billions in investment. In Japan, we have a saying, the bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists. You have shown you can bend without breaking. This is leadership. He paused. Nakamura Industries will increase our investment by 20%, contingent on your inclusive development initiative moving forward. He looked at Stephen through the camera. And Sanders-san, perhaps it is time for you to learn a new language as well. That evening, I found Emma video calling Noah, teaching his stuffed triceratops sign language. Mom, she signed when she noticed me. Matthew invited us camping next month. Real camping with tents and stars. Can we go? Yes, I signed back. We can. The camping trip to Yosemite became a turning point. For days completely disconnected. No cell service, no emails. Just the four of us and the wilderness. I learned to set up a tent badly, the poles defeating me repeatedly while Emma and Noah giggled from their perfectly assembled shelter. Matthew taught us wilderness survival basics, his patience endless even when I somehow managed to burn water attempting to cook over the campfire. How is that even possible? Noah signed, staring at the blackened pot in amazement. Your mom has special talents, Matthew laughed. On the third night, after the children were asleep, we sat by the dying fire. The Milky Way sprawled above us in a way you never saw in the city. My husband loved camping, I said suddenly. I rarely talked about him. He wanted to take Emma when she was older. Teach her to love the outdoors. After he died, I couldn't do any of the things we planned. It hurt too much. Matthew took my hand. But you're doing them now. With you, I said. With me, he agreed. And under that vast wilderness sky, he kissed me. Gentle. Patient. A promise rather than a demand. When we returned, something fundamental had shifted. The children were delighted. Noah called Emma his almost sister. Emma drew pictures of us as a family. I began implementing my inclusive vision at work, hired deaf architects, created visual meeting protocols, landed the biggest development deal in company history with a deaf-owned business consortium. The very qualities Stephen had criticized became my greatest strengths. 3 months later, at the Sign Language Center celebration, I addressed the gathered families in fluent ASL. 8 months ago, I walked in here lost. I thought I was just bringing my daughter to learn. But I found community. I found my voice in silence. I found my daughter again, not the quiet shadow I'd been protecting, but the brilliant light she truly is. And I found love. Spring brought challenges when Noah got sick, landing in the hospital for a week. I took time off, really off, supporting Matthew through his terror. When Noah recovered, Matthew pulled me close. Move in with us. Or we'll move in with you. You and Emma aren't just part of our lives anymore. You are our life. The move was chaotic and perfect. The big house that had echoed with loneliness now rang with laughter. 6 months later, on a brilliant Saturday morning at the Sign Language Center, Matthew got down on one knee. He signed his proposal while Noah and Emma held a banner reading, "Say yes." My yes was signed and spoken and laughed and cried all at once. We married the following spring in the botanical garden, surrounded by cherry blossoms and our ASL family. Emma and Noah stood as witnesses while she signed a poem about families being gardens, growing stronger when planted together. 5 years passed in a blur of ordinary miracles. Emma became an advocate for deaf children. Noah's art focused on visualizing the unspoken. My company became a model for inclusive business practices. Matthew's design firm specialized in universal communication. At Emma's high school graduation, she stood as valedictorian, delivering her speech in ASL through an interpreter. The woman who taught me to find my voice never made a sound, Emma signed, looking at me. She showed me that love needs no words, only the willingness to learn each other's languages. Matthew held my hand tightly. "That's our daughter," he whispered. And I loved that there was no distinction, no qualifier. We were simply, completely family. Stephen Sanders approached during the party, a changed man. "You were right. My grandson is deaf. I never understood until now. Bring him to the center," I said. "Saturday mornings. We'll be there." Because we always were. It had become our tradition. A young couple approached with their deaf daughter. Before I could respond, Emma was there, kneeling down, showing the child that her hands could speak, could sing, could tell stories. "It's going to be okay," I told the parents. "Better than okay. Your daughter will show you a whole new world." We watched as Emma organized an impromptu signing choir, 20 young people creating poetry with their hands. "I love you," I signed to my family. "We love you too," they signed back in unison. "Ready to go home?" Matthew asked as the party wound down. "We are home," Emma signed, gesturing to encompass everyone around them. And she was right. Home wasn't a place. It was understanding. Not perfect communication, but perfect acceptance. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Emma would leave for Gallaudet University to become a teacher. Noah would study art at CalArts. But tonight we were simply 4 people who had found each other against all odds. "Thank you," Emma signed to us. "For learning my language. For showing me that family is about choosing each other." "No," I signed back. "Thank you for teaching us that love needs no words, only the willingness to learn each other's languages." We walked out together into a future bright with possibility. This family formed from fragments but rebuilt with purpose, fluent finally in the only vocabulary that truly mattered. Thanks for listening, and if you like this story, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about second chances, unexpected families, and the courage it takes to truly connect with the people we love. Sometimes the most important language we'll ever learn is the one spoken by the heart.